Hello everybody out there today. I have a new book for you and it's called The 100 Penny Box. It's by Sharon Bell Mathis, illustrated by Leo and Dianne Dillon. This book is amazing, and one of the reasons why it's amazing, it's this connection between someone at the end of their life toward the 100 pennies, which you'll see what that means later, and someone young. And so there are a lot of questions that are answered here, including working with blended families and all the things that we have to struggle with as we get older, and we see the people we love start to grow old. So I want to just let you know that this is a very important book to me in class. I had several different activities for this, but the most important one I will tell you at the end, because I think it's really important that we understand what this is really about. So enjoy this book as I read it. This is by Sharon Bell Mathis. Aunt Dew sprang into Sharon Bell Mathis's imagination one day like an unexpected visitor. I loved her immediately, Mathis says. She took over my mornings and my afternoons and my nights, and I was proud to have her as company. After the 100 Penny Box was published in 1975, wow, it's 75, Mathis made a surprising discovery. Her grandfather had died recently. Among his belongings was a worn leather pouch. Inside it were 10 moldy pennies. Sharon hadn't known about her grandfather's coins when she wrote The 100 Penny Box. The amazing connection between her and her grandfather and Aunt Dew taught her a lesson. Everything fits. And it fits perfectly, just like Aunt Dew. So enjoy this book. Okay, the authors, or not the authors, but the illustrators are Leo and Dianne Dillon. Leo and Dianne Dillon used watercolor paints to create the pictures for the 100 Penny Box. The Dillons met as students at Parsons School of Design. Since their marriage, they have worked together to illustrate many famous books for children. The Dillons have won numerous awards for their work. They live in Brooklyn, New York, with their son Lee, who plays the guitar. Now remember, this is 1975, but it stands the test of time. It's one of those classics. And Scholastic is one that published this. And I started reading it to my students because reading it to my students gave them an idea of their responsibility to those people around us. So I just want to make sure that we understand that this is to students and young people who need to understand what it's like to grow old and what it's like to deal with people who are not the same as they were when they were young. And it's a big deal. The 100 Penny Box by Sharon Bell Mathis, illustrated by Leo and Dianne Dillon. Okay, so here she is. This is Aunt Dew. She's just sitting by the window with Michael. Now, Michael is her nephew, really, or her nephew's son. And so we're going to find out here their special relationship. Michael sat down in the bed that used to be his and watched his great-great-aunt, Aunt Dew, rocking in the rocking chair. He wanted to play with the 100 Penny Box, especially since it was raining outside. But Aunt Dew was singing that long song again. Sometimes, when she sang it, she would forget who he was for a whole day. Then she would call him John. That's her father's name. John, with his father's name. Then his mother would say, "Hey, he's Mike." Aunt Dew, his name is Michael. John's name is John. His name is Michael. But if his father was home, Aunt Dew would just say, "Where's my boy?" Then it was hard to tell whether she meant him or her father, and he would have to wait until she had said something more before he knew which one she meant. Aunt Dew didn't call his mother anything at all. Michael had heard his father and mother talking in bed late one night. It was soon after they had come from going to Atlanta to bring back Aunt Dew. "She won't even look at me. She won't call my name. Nothing," his mother had said, and Michael could tell she had been crying. "She doesn't like me. I know it. I can tell. I do everything I can to make her comfortable." His mother was crying hard. "I rode half the way across the city, all the way to Mama D's to get some homemade ice cream. Some decent ice cream." Mama D said, "The ice cream will be melted by the time you get home." So I took a cab back and made her lunch and gave her the ice cream. I sat down at the table and tried to drink my coffee. I wanted to talk to her, say something. But she just sat there, and she ate that ice cream, and looked straight ahead at the wall, and never said nothing to me. She talks to Mike, and if I come around, she even stops talking sometimes. His mother didn't say anything for a while, and then he heard her say, I care about her, but she's making me miserable in my own house. I grew up for a while with my dad was very old, and so I did my grandfather, and I keep saying I act like great grandfather because he was so old, and yeah, he chewed tobacco, he spit. He was from that old school time. A little bit frustrating sometimes. Michael heard his father say the same thing he always said about Aunt Dew. She's 100 years old, baby. Sometimes his father would add. And when I didn't have nobody, she was there. Look here, after Big John and Junie drowned, she gave me a home. I didn't have one. I didn't have nothing. No mother, no father, nobody. Nobody but her. I've loved her all my life, like I love you, and that tough, beautiful boy we made, standing right outside the door and listening for all he's worth, and he is supposed to be in his room asleep. Michael remembered he had run back to his room and gotten back to his bed and gotten up again and tiptoed over to the bedroom door to close it just a little bit. Shut off some lights shining from the bathroom into Aunt Dew's face. And then he looked at Aunt Dew and wished she'd wake up and talk to him like she did when she felt like talking and telling him all kinds of stories about people. Hold tight, Ruth, he had heard his father say that night. She knows we want her. She knows it. And baby, baby, sweet woman, you are doing fine. Everything you're doing is right. Then Michael could hear the covers moving where his mother and father were, and he knew his father was pulling his arms around his mother because sometimes he saw them still asleep in the morning, and that's the way they looked. But he was tired of remembering now, and he was tired of Aunt Dew singing and singing and singing. Aunt Dew, Michael whispered close to his great aunt's wrinkled face, can we play with the 100-penny box? Precious Lord. Take Aunt Dew, let's count the pennies out. Take my hand. Aunt Dew, lead me on. Michael thought for a moment. He knew the large scratched wooden box was down beside the dresser on the floor where he could easily get to it. Except it was no fun to count the pennies alone. It was better when Aunt Dew whacked him a little and said, Stop right there, boy. You know what that penny means? And he'd say, You tell me. And she would tell him. But when she started singing, it was hard for him to stop her, at least when she was dancing, what she called moving to the music. She'd get tired after a while, and then she would tell him about the pennies and count them too. Michael cupped his large hands. Everybody talked. Oh, there's Aunt Dew again. With Michael. And there's Mom in the background. Everybody talked about how large his hands were for his age around his great aunt's ear. Aunt Dew, he said loudly. Aunt Dew stopped, rocking hard, and turned and looked at him. But he didn't say anything, and she didn't say anything. Aunt Dew turned her head and began to sing again, exactly where she had left off. Let me stand. Michael moved away from the rocking chair and sat back down on the bed. Then he got up and went to the dresser. He reached down and picked up the heavy, scratched-up 100-penny box from the floor, walked to the bedroom door, and stood there for a moment before he went out. There was no way to stop Aunt Dew once she started singing that long song. Michael walked down the hall and held the huge box in his stomach. He could still hear Aunt Dew's high voice. I'm weak and I'm worn. What's wrong? His mother asked when she walked into the kitchen and sat down on the chair and stared at the floor. He didn't want to answer. Oh, his mother had said, reaching for the 100-penny box in his arms. Give me that thing, she said. That goes today. Soon as Aunt Dew's asleep. That goes in the furnace. Michael almost jumped out of the chair. He wouldn't let go of that big, heavy box. He could hear his great-great-aunt's voice. She was singing louder. Lead me through the night, precious Lord. Take my hand. You can't take the 100-penny box, Michael cried. I'll tell Daddy if you take it and burn it up in the furnace like you burned up all the rest of Aunt Dew's stuff. Then Michael thought of all the things he and Aunt Dew had hidden in his closet, and almost told his mother. His mother walked closer to him and stood there, but he wasn't afraid. Nobody was going to take Aunt Dew's 100-penny box. Nobody, nobody, nobody. Aunt Dew's like a child, his mother said quietly. She's like you. Thinks she needs a whole lot of stuff she really doesn't. I'm not taking her pennies. You know I wouldn't take her pennies. I'm just getting rid of that old ugly wooden box that's always underfoot. Michael stood up. No, he said. Mike, did you say no to me? His mother asked. She put his hands on her hips. I mean, Michael said, and he tried to think fast. Aunt Dew won't go to sleep if she doesn't see her box in the corner. Can I take it back, and then can you see it? And when she goes to sleep, you can take it. Go put it back in her room, then, his mother said. I'll get it later.